Welcome to TDMP, and we're going to go ahead and go over some of the games that just happened here Saturday. Got to sleep in a little bit. The first game wasn't until 1. First game, the Ravens absolutely blew the socks off of the Cleveland Browns. Before the game, Lamar called Myles Garrett just kind of annoying, which after you blow out the Browns 35-7, he couldn't have been that annoying. Considering today he only had 2 tackles and 0 sacks and really didn't seem like he put that much pressure on Lamar. Lamar took over the game early. He was just dominating, running up and down the field. A few receivers were dropping his balls. Zay Flower dropped one early. Rashad Bateman dropped one early, I'm pretty sure. Going into this game, the Ravens would clinch the 3rd seed and the division with a win, and they handled their business pretty well today, if you ask me. The game started with Bailey Zappi throwing an absolute dart to one of his tight ends. And then after that, the Browns offense, just nothing really happened with the Browns offense. They looked pretty stale. It felt like this game was going to be a punt fest until early in the first quarter, the Ravens got a pick 6. And from there on out, it was pretty much all Ravens. Pretty sure on the next drive, Lamar had this crazy play down in the red zone where he tried to flip it over the back of his head and just barely went through his receiver's hands. Would have been sick if he made that. Now, this brings me to the next topic I want to get into. Both head coaches that were coaching today for the Browns and Ravens. Every time they pan over or cut over to John Harbaugh, he just looks confused or annoyed on the sidelines. I've known this ever since I've been watching football. Ever since I've watched John Harbaugh, he just always looks annoyed or confused on the sideline. Is that like a tactic that he has to kind of fool the other team, or is he genuinely just always that confused? And then going over to the other side of the ball with Kevin Stefanski, is he going to have his job next year? Is he going to be fired on Monday, on Black Monday? He's won 2 Coach of the Year awards in 2020 and 2023, because last year they made the playoffs. Freaking Joe Flacco. Who thought Joe Flacco could still play? And most of the dysfunction that's going on in Cleveland right now is directly caused by Jimmy Haslam, the owner. The contract he gave to Deshaun Watson, that contract would not exist if Jimmy Haslam hadn't made the deal. But he decided to do it, and it fucked their team. And he's going to have to be on the roster next year, and they're probably going to have to start him unless they're able to find a rookie quarterback in the draft. But honestly, with all the bad teams this year, they're probably going to be drafting lower than they would like, or higher than they would like. However you want it. They're not going to be drafting in the top 3 or 4, more than likely. But could the Browns wait to fire Stefanski until Deshaun Watson's contract is up and give him a shot with an actual quarterback that can still play? Who knows? They'll probably get rid of him after the season, unless Haslam might be too cheap to fire Stefanski too, which, I wouldn't. I think Stefanski's a good coach. His time in Cleveland might be up, though. Hopefully another team gives him a shot if the Browns do end up getting rid of him. I just wanted to say, Lamar Jackson looks like he's going to win his 3rd MVP. You watch him out there these last few weeks, basically this last month, he's looked amazing. He's looked better in this last month than he did all last year, in my opinion, when he did win the MVP. But that leads me to ask, how far can Lamar take the Ravens in the playoffs this year? Last year, in his 2nd MVP season, he took them all the way to the AFC title game. But this year, it might be a rougher road. First of all, they're not going to have the 1st seed. They're going to be 3rd. They've clinched that today with their win over the Browns. So that means in the divisional round, unless the Bills lose their first playoff game, they're going to be going on the road, more than likely, to the Bills. And that's going to be a great match in the divisional round. I'm really hoping we get Lamar against Josh. Another thing I wanted to touch on in the Ravens game was Zay Flowers going out with that knee injury where he was going down and his knee just barely gets hit, and it looked pretty painful. He was out the rest of the game. I hope he's not out for the playoffs because he's a big part of that Ravens offense, and he'll be a big help in the playoffs. But after Derrick Henry started the half with that huge run, and then they just marched down the field for a touchdown, we all knew the game was over. We all knew the Browns weren't coming back after that, especially with Bailey Zappi and DTR as their quarterbacks, or even if Deshaun Watson was out there. The only quarterback they have on the roster that gave him a chance would be Winston. All right, time for the Bengals and Steelers. So, what's glaring and eye-popping about watching the Steelers is that Russell Wilson just looks washed. He looks done. I grew up watching Russell Wilson. He was my favorite quarterback growing up, and watching this is kind of rough, but he's 36. A lot of his game was him being mobile, and he's just not that anymore. He still has his arm. He can still chuck it down the field, but, you know, when Pickens, he was, 1 of 5 tonight for 0 yards? Or no, 1 of 6? If you don't have the receivers, he just can't do it because he can't run around and make the plays like he used to, and his receivers aren't getting open fast enough, and he's just taking too many hits. And what I saw tonight, I do not think George Pickens is a true number 1 wide receiver. I think he's a high end 2. I used to think he was a low end 1, but which showed me tonight against the Browns, he's definitely more of a mid to high end 2 than a number 1 receiver. Which means the Steelers are probably going to have to either go get another number 2 or think about getting a true number 1 receiver, but George Pickens is not it. For Russell Wilson, it looked like he couldn't operate the offense until late into the 4th quarter when they scored that garbage time TD, and they brought it within a score, but even after that, the offense just looked bad, and then the 2-minute drill at the end of the game, they seemed incompetent in the 2-minute drill. They weren't getting out of bounds. They were going down in bounds. Russell Wilson decided to run off with it and go down in bounds instead of checking it out of bounds and saving some time. And it's decisions like that are costing the Steelers these games. Now, on the other side of the ball, Joe Burrow, he's having an MVP caliber season. He just doesn't have the MVP type of team around him. Well, actually, it's showing he does. The last month or so, the defense has been pretty good, but early in the season, that Bengals defense was bad. And, as a quote-unquote honorary Bengals fan, watching that, it was hard to root for the Bengals. But Burrow's having a historic year, and I really hope they get in. In order for the Bengals to get in, the Dolphins and Broncos still have to lose tomorrow, which, with the Chiefs starting all their backups against the Broncos tomorrow, who knows how that is going to go. And especially the Broncos are probably going to be playing pretty hard so they can get that playoff spot versus the Chiefs. Who knows? Carson Wentz might play his heart out because he probably still wants a starting job in the NFL. And, as an honorary Bengals fan, I'm hoping that he does, but who knows? We'll see how it goes. But where has this Bengals defense been all year? If the Bengals defense was playing like this, they would at least be an 11, 12, maybe even a 13-win team right now. But no, the defense gave up way too many points early in the year, and it cost them to where now it's not up to them to make the playoffs. They have to rely on the freaking Chiefs and whoever the hell the Dolphins are playing. No, the Dolphins are playing the Jets. So they're going to have to rely on 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers and Carson Wentz to make the playoffs, which is not ideal, considering those fan bases don't even really want to rely on those players right now. And that leaves me to my next topic. Could Zach Taylor be fired if the Bengals make the playoffs? With how last season went and how this season went, it's been really disappointing for Bengals fans with Joe Burrow getting hurt or just how bad the defense has looked. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals let him go during Black Monday and went a different direction. Knowing that Joe Burrow can pretty much hold down the offense, maybe they go with a defensive head coach and just kind of let Burrow operate the offense. Who knows? But something's got to be done with that Bengals defense, and who knows how many more chances Zach Taylor's going to get before he eventually gets let go. So, tomorrow is the final Sunday of the regular season. Sadly, I won't be able to watch all the games. I won't even be able to watch the Hawks play because it's my friend's birthday tomorrow, so I'm going to be going over to his house during the Seahawks game. But I wanted to give some quick predictions about what I think is going to happen tomorrow. So there are 2 playoff seeds remaining. The 7th seed in both. Well, no, the 7th seed in the AFC and the 4th seed in the NFC. The 7th seed is alive between the Dolphins, Broncos, and Bengals for the AFC, and the 4th seed for the NFC is still alive for the Falcons and Buccaneers. And I think technically they still could get the 3rd seed depending on who wins between the Seahawks and Rams. With the Rams resting their players, I think Seahawks might win. Who knows which Geno we're gonna get on Sunday. But I wanted to give some predictions on who's going to get those final 2 spots. Now, on the NFC side, I think the Buccaneers are going to win, and they're going to get their final playoff spot. Buccaneers are playing the Saints. It should be a pretty easy win for them, and it's a win and you're in for the Buccaneers. And I just don't see the Falcons being able to do it, especially with Michael Penix in his 3rd start. They might win the game, but relying on the Bucs to also lose is a lot. I'm hoping a lot for Michael Penix, being a former UW quarterback. And hopefully next year he, does a lot better than Kirk Cousins did this last month or two. Kirk Cousins just been throwing interceptions left and right. And then for that final seed in the AFC, I think the Denver Broncos are going to win against the Chiefs, and they're going to lock up that 7th seed. I don't think the Dolphins are going to beat the Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers is playing his heart out right now, so another team will pick him next year, as he won't be back with the Jets next year. Bengals, they just won. They're holding up their end of the bargain, but who knows if that's going to be enough. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with a reaction to the Vikings-Lions game to decide who gets the number 1 and number 5 seed in the NFC.